The richest 1% of Americans have many times more debt than you. Not less, more. The average household owes $104,000 across mortgages, cars, and credit cards. The average millionaire often carries more debt than that, sometimes millions more. So why is one person's debt a prison, and the other person's debt is a tool that made them rich? That's what we're solving today. Here's the lie you've probably been told your whole life. Debt is bad. Pay it off. Live debt-free. It sounds responsible. It sounds smart. And for consumer debt, credit cards, car loans, buy now, pay later, it's mostly true. But somewhere along the way, that advice got applied to all debt. Mortgages, business loans, even student loans. And that's where regular people start falling behind. Not because they have debt, but because they never learned there are two completely different species of it. You've been taught to fear a category. You should have been taught to read a label. Let's define it plainly, because this is the entire foundation of the video. Bad debt finances something that loses value and produces zero income. A $45,000 car that's worth $28,000 the moment you drive it off the lot. A credit card balance from a vacation. That debt is a hole. Every payment you make just refills a bucket that's already drained. Good debt finances something that either appreciates in value, produces income, or both. A rental property, a business loan that generates more revenue than it costs. Even, in some cases, a mortgage on a home in a rising market. Here's the test, and write this down. Does the debt buy something that pays you back? If yes, it's a tool. If no, it's a leak. Most people's entire financial life is drowning in leaks, while they avoid tools out of fear. But knowing the difference isn't enough, because even good debt can destroy you if you don't understand one number. And there's a number that changes everything. I'm going to give it to you in a few minutes, but first, you need to understand why the wealthy actively seek out debt instead of running from it. This is called interest rate arbitrage, and it's the quiet engine behind almost every real estate fortune and business built on borrowed money. Here's the math. Say you borrow $200,000 at 6% interest. Your annual cost of that debt is $12,000. Now say you take that $200,000 and put it into an asset that returns 10% a year, a rental property, a business, an index fund over a long enough timeline. Your return? $20,000. Subtract your cost of $12,000. You just made $8,000 using money that wasn't yours. That's the entire secret. It's not complicated. It's not a loophole. It's just a spread between what you pay to borrow and what the borrowed money earns. The bank makes money lending you $200,000 at 6%. You make money putting that $200,000 to work at 10%. Everyone in the transaction profits, except the person who never learned this exists. Here's something almost nobody tells you, and banks certainly aren't advertising it. Banks themselves operate on this exact model at a scale that would terrify you. Most banks are only required to hold a small percentage of their deposits in reserve. For every dollar you deposit, banks can lend out a large multiple of it elsewhere. They're running arbitrage on your own money at 10 times leverage or more, while paying you nearly 0% interest on your savings account. You've been funding other people's arbitrage for free. This entire video is about you finally sitting on the other side of that table. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like a great way to go bankrupt if the investment doesn't work out. You're right. And this is exactly where 90% of people who try to use leverage get destroyed. So let's build the actual step-by-step path, the one that separates strategic debt from gambling. Step 1. Kill the leaks first. Before you touch a single dollar of strategic debt, eliminate consumer debt above 8 to 10% interest. Credit cards averaging 22% APR aren't a tool, they're a fire. You cannot outinvest a 22% guaranteed loss. Math doesn't care how motivated you are. Step 2. Build your floor. 3 to 6 months of expenses, sitting in cash or a high-yield savings account. This isn't about growth. This is what allows you to survive a bad month without selling assets or missing a loan payment. Skip this step, and leverage turns from a tool into a trapdoor. Step 3. Identify income-producing assets, not just investments. This is the step people get wrong constantly. Not all assets qualify. A rental property that generates positive cash flow after your mortgage payment. A business with proven, repeatable revenue. Dividend-paying index funds held over a 10-plus year horizon. These have something in common. They produce cash flow or growth independent of your labor. Step 4. Calculate your real cost of capital. This means, after tax deductions, after inflation, what does this debt actually cost you? A mortgage at 6% might sound expensive, but if mortgage interest is tax deductible for you, your real cost might functionally sit closer to 4.5%. And here's where it gets interesting. I told you there was a number coming. Here it is. Inflation doesn't just erode your savings, it erodes your debt too. And that works in your favor. If you locked in a mortgage at a fixed 3.5% interest rate and inflation is running at 5%, you are, in real terms, being paid roughly 1.5% to hold that debt. Your dollars today are worth more than the dollars you'll use to pay off that loan in year 15. The bank agreed to be repaid in cheaper future dollars. You're not fighting inflation on that debt. Inflation is quietly working for you. This single mechanic is why people who bought real estate with fixed-rate mortgages in the 2000s and 2020s are sitting on wealth that dwarfs people who played it safe and paid cash, or worse, waited to buy because debt felt scary. Fixed-rate debt on an appreciating asset during inflationary periods isn't a risk, it's a hedge. Let's make this concrete. Two people, same starting point. Each has $50,000. Person A avoids all debt, saves aggressively, buys a $50,000 asset in cash. 10 years later, if that asset appreciates at 4% annually, it's worth about $74,000. Solid, safe, slow. Person B takes that same $50,000, uses it as a 20% down payment on a $250,000 property, borrowing the remaining $200,000. That property also appreciates at 4% a year. Here's the difference. Person B's appreciation is calculated on the full $250,000 asset, not just their $50,000 contribution. After 10 years, that property is worth roughly $370,000. Even after paying down the loan and accounting for interest paid, Person B's equity dramatically outpaces Person A's, often by 2 to 3 times, depending on the loan terms and rental income offsetting the mortgage. Same starting capital, same market conditions. The only difference is one person understood leverage and one didn't. This isn't a hypothetical trick. It's the literal mathematical backbone of how real estate builds more millionaires than almost any other asset class in America. Now, I promised you this wasn't hype, so let's talk about how this goes wrong, because it does, constantly. Leverage multiplies outcomes in both directions. If that asset drops in value instead of rising, Person B loses proportionally more than Person A. If the rental sits vacant, if the business has a bad quarter, if rates rise and you have to refinance, the debt doesn't care, it's still due. This is why Step 1 and Step 2 aren't optional intros, they're the seatbelt. Debt-funded assets only work when you can survive the asset having a bad year without being forced to sell it in a panic. The families who got wiped out in 2008 weren't destroyed because they used debt. They were destroyed because they used debt with no cash floor on assets they couldn't actually afford to hold through a downturn. Step 5. Reinvest the spread, don't spend it. Going back to our arbitrage example, that $8,000 profit from borrowing at 6% and earning 10%, the wealth building only compounds if that spread gets reinvested into more income-producing assets, not a new car or a vacation. This is the step that turns a clever math trick into generational wealth. One cycle of arbitrage is interesting. 10 repeated cycles, compounding on each other over 15 years, is how a $50,000 starting position turns into a 7-figure portfolio. So here's the entire path, compressed. Kill high-interest consumer debt. Build a cash floor. Identify assets that produce income or reliably appreciate. Calculate your true, after-tax, after-inflation cost of borrowing. Use debt deliberately when the spread favors you, and reinvest the profit instead of spending it. Debt was never the enemy. Undirected, undisciplined consumer debt was the enemy. The exact same tool that keeps 60% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck is the tool that built almost every real estate fortune and business empire in this country. The banks already know this. That's their entire business model. The only question now is whether you're going to keep sitting on the side of the table that pays interest, or move to the side that collects it.